It was the kind of moment that freezes time. Gasps, stares, phones shaking in sweaty palms. On day 9 of the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs, a name surfaced that sent chills down the nation's spine. A name no one expected to ever grace a courtroom again, let alone as a witness, Bill Cosby. Yes, that Bill Cosby. Frail, gaunt, shuffling in with a small leather notebook pressed to his chest like scripture, as if it were all that was keeping his soul from drifting away. But behind those tired eyes wasn't just guilt, it was terror, it was rage, and it was a confession that would shake the courtroom to its core. As he took the stand, the silence was deafening. The prosecutors passed the judge a sealed envelope labeled witness order, level Omega. The defense laughed until the judge calmly looked up and said one word, admissible. Then, dead silence. The name? Bill. Freaking Cosby. You could hear hearts drop. What came next was something no PR spin, no lawyer, no apology tour could clean up. When asked why he agreed to testify, Cosby didn't flinch, didn't blink. He looked straight at the jury and dropped the quote that instantly rewrote the narrative of this trial, because what he did makes me look like an amateur. The room erupted, even the judge's jaw clenched, and that was just the beginning. The monster calls another monster a monster. Let's be real, Cosby's legacy is a scorched mess. His past is branded with scandal, disgrace, and ruined lives. So when he, the fallen king of television, said he saw something darker, the world listened. Turns out, Cosby had been sitting on a subpoena for months, delivered secretly through back channels thanks to an FBI informant from his prison stint. Someone claimed Cosby knew things, knew too much, and had seen it all unravel from behind velvet curtains, inside the darkest rooms of the elite. Cosby's legal team confirmed it. He didn't testify to redeem himself. He testified because the evil he saw in Diddy's empire made him feel like a party clown. His words. And when he was wheeled into that courtroom, thinner and more ghost than man, gripping that notebook like it held the last piece of his soul, the room knew. This wasn't a performance. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't charming, he was haunted. And he was about to speak. The nightmare in Los Angeles. It all began at what was billed as a glitzy industry retreat in 2013. Cosby said he attended to boost his daughter's music career. Just another networking party, right? Wrong. Within an hour, the red flags were screaming. No phones, no press, no photos. But women were being ushered in from the back, and none of them looked like they wanted to be there, Cosby recalled bitterly. And then came the moment that made the entire courtroom lean in. I know that look, he whispered. I've seen it in the mirror. He described one soundproof VIP lounge where, instead of cocktails and laughs, he found a lineup of girls, some barely 18, standing behind a curtain. Then he heard it. A handler whispered, "Kolb's wants red picks only, the ones who know how to stay quiet." And who shows up next? Diddy. Smiling, laughing, acting like he owned the world. When Cosby nervously asked what was going on, Diddy reportedly grinned and said, "You of all people shouldn't be asking that." Cosby left, said nothing, told no one, justified it, but he knew then that wasn't a party, it was a pipeline. Later, he got a thank you gift, a vintage watch, and a handwritten note that read, "Real men keep secrets." He turned that note over to the prosecution, Exhibit 43B, and then he dropped the hammer. "I thought I was a monster, but that man made me look like I was doing party tricks." The tunnels under Miami, Day 3. Cosby looked weaker, a blanket draped across his legs, still clutching that notebook. But he wasn't done. "I need to tell you about the tunnels," he said quietly. It was 2014, a legacy celebration during Art Basel. Hosted at one of Diddy's private mansions, someone offered Cosby a tour. He thought he'd see a wine cellar, maybe a studio. Instead, he was taken down. 2 security codes, an elevator, no cameras, just cement walls, flickering lights, and the smell of bleach and something worse. He was led into a viewing room, a chamber with soundproof walls and a screen buried in the concrete. They played a tape. "I only watched 10 seconds, Cosby said, trembling. A girl, maybe 20, sobbing. Someone off-screen coaching her. Then a man walked in, wearing a Diddy necklace. He screamed, 'Stop!' They did. But not before whispering, he likes to rewatch the best ones. 2 days later, someone slipped Cosby an envelope at his hotel. Inside, a photo of him in the viewing room. No words, just the image. "Even ghosts don't talk," the man had whispered. White rapture and the napkins of horror. Cosby's voice cracked as he detailed a series of Diddy's clubs deemed events. Crimson Tin, White Rapture, Pulse Sync names that sounded like luxury clubs but were codes for something much darker. "You didn't ask questions," Cosby explained. "You just smiled, toasted, and shut up." And then came the napkin, a folded piece of cloth, stained, wrinkled. On it, written in what Cosby claimed was Diddy's own handwriting. She's only 17. The courtroom exploded. That napkin had allegedly been found beside the bar. That same night, Cosby swore he saw someone being carried out wrapped in a blanket. No ambulance, no panic, just silence. The model from France. Then came the most heartbreaking testimony yet. Cosby recounted a 2004 event in Miami. Supposed to meet a new rising star, a French model, barely 19. She looked terrified, he said. Diddy arrived, full of charm, cracking jokes. But when the girl said she wanted to leave, everything changed. Cosby said Diddy looked straight at him and said, "Relax, she'll thank us when she's famous." Cosby stood up, told him he was going too far. Diddy laughed, then leaned in and said, "You don't know what far is." And I believed him. Cosby whispered, "The letters that broke the room on the final day Cosby came in with something new. 2 anonymous letters. The first was from a former assistant. They called them suitcase girls. No ID, no luggage, just a list of names and flags. It wasn't a menu, it was a selection. The second, from a personal chef. I had to memorize 2 menus. One was for food, the other was coded. Platinum trays didn't mean dessert. He handed both to the court exhibits 54A and 54B. Diddy's team freaked. Objected. Screamed about authorship. Judge said denied. The truth had walked in. And it wasn't leaving. The fixer enters, and just when you thought it couldn't get darker, a man in a navy suit entered the courtroom gallery. Whispers swirled. He wasn't on the docket, but insiders knew. He was a former industry fixer, a man paid to erase problems. Cosby looked him dead in the eye. "Nice to see you again," he said into the mic. The entire room froze. The prosecution revealed this man was already subpoenaed in a separate federal case involving illicit entertainment contracts and personnel procurement. Cosby didn't hold back. He once told me, "Diddy's not a person, he's a project. I didn't get it then, I do now." Cosby's final confession. The court took a break. Tension bled into the streets. Hashtags trended. Anonymous tips poured in. And Cosby, he stood one last time. "I'm not here to say I'm innocent," he said, voice raw. "I'm here because I know the difference between a mistake and a machine." Then he delivered the line that ended the room. "If this is what it takes to end it, then let my name be the last you ever need to hear in that context." He didn't wait for a dismissal. He just walked away. Silence, not from shame, but from something even louder, truth. As Bill Cosby exited the courtroom, his final words still echoing like a thunderclap, the gallery remained frozen. No one moved, not a single cough, whisper, or rustling paper. It was as if time itself had stopped, because for the first time, the trial wasn't just about Diddy. It wasn't about Cosby's past. It was about what happens when people finally start talking. Journalists outside the courthouse were in chaos. Reporters were screaming into microphones. Social media timelines exploded with hashtags like Cosby testifies, Diddy pipeline, and the most chilling one of all, real men keep secrets. But inside that courtroom, something even bigger was unraveling. The judge warning after a brief recess, the judge, a hardened federal expert used to RICO cases and cartel families, returned with a face that screamed discomfort. She looked over the courtroom, locked eyes with the gallery, and then declared, "This is not a circus. This is not entertainment. This is a federal proceeding." But no matter what she said, the room had already changed. The layers of secrecy had cracked. The luxury smokescreens were falling apart. What once felt like celebrity drama had now taken the shape of systemic evil, exposed through the trembling voice of the very man the world once considered a fallen villain. Cosby wasn't crying for forgiveness, he was dragging a monster out of the shadows. The storage unit and the vault reels. Right after Cosby's final statement, the prosecution approached the judge with a sealed folder. Inside, 2 more anonymous tips. One of them mentioned a storage facility rented under an alias, reportedly tied to Diddy's inner circle. It allegedly contained digital recordings, black and white labeled, stacked in metal drawers. The other, even more disturbing. It referenced something known only as vault reels, clips, footage, snapshots of VIP encounters filmed over years, not leaked, not traded, just stored. Why? For leverage, one note read. His fame alone, he kept insurance, the fame alone, he kept insurance. The judge ruled that those materials weren't ready for evidence yet, but the damage was already done. Even people in Diddy's own camp started quietly lawyering up. The indigenous cracks as Cosby's testimony went viral. A ripple effect tore through Hollywood. Former assistants, ex-bodyguards, party planners, makeup artists, and stylists began leaking stories, some through legal channels, others through backdoor media drops. One statement from a former event organizer read, "If you think Cosby's lying, then you've never been to a Diddy party." The masks weren't metaphorical. Another anonymous source, claiming to have once worked at a private Caribbean island linked to Combs, said, "We weren't allowed to speak, period. If a guest talked too much, they were rotated out, as in never hired again, ever." And then came the NDA breakdown. Whispers swirled that several NDAs, signed under dubious mental states, were being challenged in court due to Cosby's testimony unlocking a path to retroactive exposure. The Project Theory. In what might be the most surreal twist yet, Cosby returned to the courtroom gallery just for a moment, flanked by his team, and made eye contact with the Navy-suited fixer one last time. He simply whispered, "You still think it's a project?" That phrase. He's not a person, he's a project. It's stuck. Because what does that even mean? Online theorists took off running with it. TikTok detectives and Reddit sleuths built massive threads outlining how Combs' entire public image, from Bad Boy Records to Revolt TV, may have been engineered not just by talent scouts and label execs, but by something else. Something above. Was Diddy's rise to power organic? Or was he positioned, and if so, by who? The Emerald Weekend horror Cosby wasn't done, even if his legal team begged him to stay silent. In a private deposition excerpt, he described a surreal hotel lobby with false floors and private elevators that didn't stop on numbered levels. Rooms that shouldn't exist. Cosby described rooms that only opened with a key card and a second chip. Inside one suite, security screens playing looped footage, some innocent, others chilling. Some of it looked like backstage parties, but some of it looked like control. That's when he realized there were tapes. Years later, he confronted the fixer in the courtroom. He didn't deny it, he just smirked. The world erupts outside chaos. News anchors were speechless. Radio hosts broke down mid-broadcast. Celebs started deleting posts, vanishing overseas. Even Diddy's fan pages went dark. Survivor groups and trauma counselors spoke out, not in support of Cosby the man, but of the truth he told. "Monsters don't always lie," one advocate posted. "Sometimes they scream when they see something even worse." The silence that hit harder than words as the prosecution wrapped up. Cosby's voice cut through the noise. "I came because I stopped being afraid." No tears, no spin, just raw, brutal truth. He walked out without a single camera flash because this wasn't drama anymore. It was a reckoning. The last name that had to be said, he knew his name was poison, but in the end, he didn't run from it, he used it. If this is what it takes to end it, then let my name be the last you ever need to hear in that context. And just like that, the man once known as America's dad became something else. A witness to hell, a crack in the system, and maybe the spark that burned the empire down.